Hello friends, I'm Jana Eubank. Today I'm playing with the March 2025 Hip Kits. This is the beautiful Sweet Moments collection. I love it and I can't wait to dive in. Now, my favorite thing, well, everything in the hip kits are my favorite, but I gotta say their pattern papers are fantastic. They always come up with the cutest designs. And so I was really excited that my assignment today was to play with the Reflections pattern paper. Now this pattern paper has a design of stained glass windows on it. And my assignment is to transform it in some way. Now my photos that I'm using with this have nothing to do with a church or Easter or anything like that. They're just some fun springtime photos. And so what I decided to do was to cut out these stained glass windows and kind of rearrange them as a base layer behind my photos and other elements on the page. At first, I thought I would have the rounded shapes kind of hidden behind my photos with the straight edges on the top and bottom, but I didn't quite like that. So I actually flipped those around so that the scalloped or the rounded edges of those windows were across the top and bottom, and it almost creates a large scallop effect for this background layer for my photo and other elements. Now I did leave a gap in between those because I wanted the windows or this background layer to appear a bit larger, but don't worry, I'm going to cover that gap with my photos. And also my idea is to add like a journaling spot or something here to the left to cover that final little area of that gap. So I'm going to flip through the tags and what are these called? The tags and phrases die cuts from the embellishment kit. And I'm just looking for a color or something that will fill this without competing with those stained glass windows. I didn't find something that was, catching my eye. So I did head on over to the cardstock die cuts. There was this floral tag that I thought I might try, but nothing was quite working. However, while I was in there, I did find this shine word and I am going to use that for my title. So the next thing I did was head on over to the blanket stitched oblong metal dies, and I'm actually going to cut out a piece of that to use as my anchoring spot for my journaling, my title, and other embellishments. So I went ahead and cut that out using the zesty cardstock from the cardstock kit. And then I also brought in this lace border piece that I fussy cut from another pattern paper called Giggles and Laughs. And I'm just going to use that as a baseline. I'm going to go ahead and banner cut or fishtail cut either end of that lace piece and then just tuck it in there underneath my photo and that journal spot. Now I did recut that journal spot to the next size up. I just felt like it wasn't enough space to add my title and other things. And so I just went ahead and went back to the cardstock and cut another piece. And I'll save those other pieces for another time. Now, next I wanted to add some florals because these pictures were taken in the spring, which of course is the season right now. And so I headed on over to the cardstock florals and I tried on all of these different beautiful clusters and decided to go with this one with the purple and blue. I felt like it was starting to bring in the colors of those stained glass windows and just complemented that really well. Now, as I placed that shine title across the bottom of my photo, it was kind of getting lost in that blue lace piece as well as the blue mats that I used on my photos. So I went over to the cardstock die cuts and found this little green label piece, and that helped to set that off a little bit. I'm really liking how this looks, and so I went ahead and popped those up with some foam tape, and now I'm flipping through the other cardstock die cuts just looking for additional elements to decorate my page. Of course, I pulled out these butterflies because they're so beautiful, so colorful, so I will add those. And now I'm going to look for something to go to the right of my photo. I'm going to add those butterflies to either side of the cardstock oval there, and then I picked out that purple tea kettle. Now, that seems kind of odd because this layout isn't about cooking or anything like that. But if you know my daughter, you know that she loves to be in the kitchen. She's always experimenting, always throwing little parties for her friends. And so I felt like this little purple tea kettle was a subtle nod to her personality and just worked out perfectly. I also like how it's balancing out the purple color of that large purple flower in the floral cluster. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. Now in the embellishment kit are these most adorable foam buttons, and I definitely wanted to add one because I love adding, pieces of twine or ribbon to my projects to add a bit of softness. And so these foam buttons allow you to do that. So I went ahead and picked out one of these green ones, and I thought that was a good option because it started to bring in the green color towards the right side of the page. I then threaded a tapestry needle with a double length of thin white twine and just threaded that through there, tied that in a bow, and now I am set. I love how this looks. I love how this page looks, but I want to bring in some more of those sprinkling elements, like some smaller little details. So I head on over to these glitter foam cardstocks, and on there's a bunch of tiny hearts and little confetti dots, and I start to sprinkle these in around my little my butterflies and my tea kettle here. And I really love how that looks. Now, in the end, I do pull off the dots and switch those out for larger hearts, but those dots will stay on the page clear till the end, and you'll see those other heart pieces in the closing shots of my layout. So I'll just continue on here in the design. Now, next I went back to the tags and phrases, and I wanted to add a couple of these phrases just to underscore my title. So I picked out a couple of those. I'm going to ink those up and then use some foam tape to pop those up. At this point, I'm looking at my page and I'm thinking I need to add a little bit more green towards the right-hand side. So I went over to the Pocket Life kit and I pulled out this little washi tape strip piece. I also pulled out a little label, and I'm just experimenting with tucking that behind the right edge. And I decide to go ahead and just tuck in that little green label just so there's just a little splash of that green, and I'll finish off there. Now I'm really loving my design and I almost finished it at this point. However, it felt like I needed to cap it off in some way. So I decided to experiment with some strips of pattern paper. I got this zesty yellow branding strip from the Reflections paper. That's the same paper with the stained glass windows. And I'm just going to tear a couple of pieces of these and I'm going to place them in opposite corners, along with a smaller piece of this fussy cut lace from the Giggles and Laughs paper. So at first I do this little vertical strip here in the top left corner, and then I do the horizontal one at the bottom. And I'm just trying to cap it off, or I don't know, just kind of bookend it or frame it in some way. So I'm just kind of experimenting at this point. Now I like these pieces, but I'm not sure I'm in love with it. Like, it's not sitting completely well with me. So I'm going to decorate it a little bit. I'm going to play with some embellishments on here, but I do end up pulling those off. And I do add them back in, and I'll tell you what I do end up doing. I decided that my background was just a little too blank. So I trimmed down this background and I'm going to cut it down a little bit and then frame it with the Calm cardstock, which is the green color. So it's so pretty. I love that it repeats the color of the green in the stained glass windows, and it just felt better to me. I liked the additional color that it added, and it just felt like elements weren't falling off the page. So I really love this, but I did love the strips as well. So I decided to bring those back in and just place those across the top and bottom like I had before. But this time it feels a lot better because the page now has that green border. I'm going to take this page over to my sewing machine and do a straight stitch around the entire edge, and then I'll do some zigzag stitches and some straight stitches on top of those strips. Now I do come back in and decorate the strips a little bit more with some puffy stickers, some die cuts, and also some fussy cut florals from there's a beautiful floral paper called Bloom and Grow. So that's where these little tiny purple flowers come from. And so I'm just going to create a couple of little clusters or embellishment clusters on here that repeat the same elements in both spaces, and then finish off that layout. So I remember to look for the larger hearts that are in place of the dots in the closing shots. Again, these are the March 2025 kits from Hip Kit Club. This is the beautiful Sweet Moments collection. It's so pretty, so springy. It has so many fun elements, so many beautiful pattern papers. I had so much fun switching up this stained glass window paper to create a background for my photos and other elements. You will see that I will also add in some journaling strips here that I just created on my computer, and those you will see in the closing shots as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to head on over to Hip Kit Club. You can join the Facebook group on Facebook and see what the designers are doing every single day. Be sure to follow the YouTube channel as well. There's so many great ideas, so many resources to help you use your kits. And even if you're not a subscriber to the kit, come and check out the inspiration. You can definitely apply these to other projects that you may be working on. All right, guys, my name is Jana Eubank for Hip Kit Club. We'll see you next time.